time-stealing beauty. So, let's begin. Lucy, a 19-year-old young girl, is sent by her father to travel to Italy. She takes the train, and when she gets to Siena, she has slept off on the train, and a passenger wakes her up at Siena to say that she has arrived at her destination. Arriving at Siena, she takes a cab to her mother's best friend, Diana, and her husband, Ian, house. As she arrives, she doesn't meet anyone in the house. She walks through the door looking at all of Ian's sculptures, and she eventually gets outside the house, and she finds Diana resting outside. She goes to meet Diana, and she hugs her. Diana complains that they had expected her to call when she got to the train station, but she says she got a cab, so she didn't bother. Diana happily calls her husband to welcome Lucy. She takes Lucy inside the house, and Lucy looks at her son, Christopher's photo. Lucy asks her if Christopher is around, but she says that although her son was meant to come for her birthday ceremony the day before, he has gotten lost in his adventure in Turkey, so he didn't come. Ian arrives, and she goes to hug him. Ian comments that she is much bigger than the last time he saw her 4 years ago. He takes her out of the house, and he takes her to their barn. He tells her that they have eventually been able to construct the barn after 20 years of relocating to that place. He comments that the place was just a desert when they relocated without electricity or infrastructure, and they had to drain themselves financially to set it up to that stage. She wonders why they had relocated to that area, and he says it's because of his job. He could make sculptures and all in that free environment. She enters the barn she will be staying. She opens the window, and he tells her there is a neighbor living around that side, a man named Alex Parrish. He also tells her she has to manage with them as he slips off a little, and she has to help him because he will have to put his eyes on her. After he leaves, she wonders why her father had sent her to Diana's house. The reason her father gave her was so Ian would make a sculpture of her, but her father had never been a fan of Ian's works, and he disliked it. She is a daughter of a popular poet, Sarah Hammond, who died some time ago, and Diana had been Hammond's friend. She rests in the room, and she later leaves the room to swim. As she walks outside, a slipper falls in front of her. She calls out for a man who is around to ask if it's his shoe. The man comments that he doesn't know her, and she introduces herself. He also tells her he is Guillaume. She goes to the pool to swim, and after spending time there, she notices that there is another lady lying by the water. She figures she is Miranda, Diana's daughter. She greets Miranda and says she has never met Miranda before. She asks Miranda about Christopher, and Miranda tells her that although they do not live with their parents, they visit every year to celebrate her birthday, but that year, Christopher is lost in Turkey and can't come. Lucy comments that Christopher had gone with Nicolo, and Miranda is shocked that Lucy knows Nicolo, so Lucy explains that she met them when she last visited. Miranda's boyfriend, Richard, joins them, and Miranda introduces Lucy as Sarah's daughter. Richard knows Sarah to be the legendary poet. He greets Lucy saying that her mother was his hero and he had wanted to be a poet because of her, but he realizes he doesn't have creativity in his bones, so he decides to become an entertainment lawyer, so he will be close to creative people like Miranda who forges jewelries. After the introduction, Richard jumps into the water to join Lucy. That night during dinner, Miranda receives a call from Christopher. Although she can't hear him, the other family members at the table read anonymous messages sent to Naomi. It's a social network where people who need advice send their issues, and Naomi advises. Miranda joins the table with Richard, and they both can't take their hands off themselves. They kiss at every moment, and even after the meal, they proceed to make out. Diana shows Lucy one of her mother's clothes, and she asks Lucy to wear it for dinner organized by the Donatis, but when Lucy tests the clothes on herself, it doesn't size her, so Diana helps her repair it. That night, Ian tells Diana that he wonders why Lucy's father had sent her because he hated his craft and even hated the one Sarah had. Regardless, Diana says Lucy will enjoy her stay, and she will soon stay moving with men. Diana claims 19 is for chasing and being chased by men, and she even saw Lucy looking at Christopher's picture that afternoon. That night, she is unable to sleep. She rolls around her bed until Parrish calls out for her. He asks that they smoke together, and she accepts. While they smoke, she asks him what he knows about her mother and how her mother is. He asks her about sex, but she confides in him that she has never had sex. She admits that she met a guy during the summer when she was 15, that's 4 years ago during her last visit. She had her first kiss with the guy, and even after her visit, they sent letters to each other a lot. There was even one of the letters when he told her about his new dog. She memorized all the phrases in the letter. Later, everything stopped. He comments that it may be due to her mother's death, but she stands up, saying it didn't have anything to do with it. That night, Parrish joins the family for breakfast. Diana notices that he is more cheerful, and he tells her he had met Lucy that night. She asks him what they talked about, but he doesn't want to discuss the virgin aspect. Naomi arrives, and he eventually reveals the truth to everyone before Lucy joins them. They have their breakfast, after which they walk around the villa. She meets a little girl, Daisy, and Daisy is excited to show her around. Daisy drags her towards a part of the villa. It's the same place she had her first kiss, and she tells Daisy about it, and Daisy says that Miranda enjoys having kisses. She has kissed several guys, including Nicolo. She is shocked that Miranda has kissed Nicolo. When she returns inside, she asks Diana if she knows a man named Carlo Lisca. She says Carlo does send letters to her mother, so Diana tells her she will invite Carlo. That night, as she walks around, she overhears Miranda and Richard having sex, and she spies them. The following day, Diana incites Carlo, who is a war survivor and an ex-military officer. As she arrives, he sees Lucy playing with Richard. Richard struggles to collect a scarf from her until he lays on her and angers Miranda. She meets Carlo later and asks him what he feels about her mother, but Carlo says they only made out once. After he leaves, she walks with Parrish to join the family at the pool, and she overhears Diana talking about how she is still a virgin at 19. She gets angry at Parrish and walks away. She tells Daisy that day she is returning to New York, and Daisy replies that her mother said she is in love with Christopher. At about that time, Christopher arrives with Nicolo, and while Christopher recognizes her, Nicolo doesn't. She feels bad because she had thought their feelings were mutual. Christopher reminds Nicolo, who apologizes, and on his way home with his brother, Osvaldo, he remembers all the letters they had shared. He returns to their house that evening with Osvaldo for dinner. After the meal, he apologizes to her, and she accepts his apology. All the teens sit together, and they recount their first sexual experiences while she asks if it has to be sex, and if they don't know about love. Nicolo says love doesn't exist to him. She leans toward him, but she throws up. The following day, Richard comes to her room. He plays with her, and Miranda sees them in a compromising situation. After Richard goes to apologize to Miranda, she goes to find Nicolo in his house, but finds him kissing another girl. She walks away despite Osvaldo calling her back, and she gets injured. She brings a lieutenant needing a phone home, and she meets Parrish, who apologizes and helps her treat her wound. The following day, Ian continues her sketching. He asks her to bring out a part of her breast, which she does, and the males see her. As she walks away, Nicolo walks after her. She asks him if he has sent the girl with him away, and he replies affirmatively, saying he wants only her. He starts touching her, and they kiss. He attempts to have sex with her, but she pushes him away. She runs inside the house with tears, and she brings out her mother's poem book and shares it with Parrish. The poem shows her mother's experience with a man who she thinks is her real father, and she asks Parrish if he has ever been in love. That night, they go to the party organized by Nicolo's parents. She sees Nicolo with another lady during the party, but she totally ignores them. She finds a random man and talks with him. As she leaves, Osvaldo runs after her, telling her he wants to visit America, and he wants his advice. She says she will meet him the next day, and she goes home with the man. She sleeps on separate beds with him without having sex while everyone else has sex in their rooms. The following day, she sends him off. As she returns back, she sees Diana sending off Parrish to the ambulance as he is sick. They all bid Parrish goodbye, and Diana asks Lucy to enter the ambulance to wish him too. When Lucy returns to her room, she sees a sculpture of mother and child that Ian had made. She takes some flowers and goes to meet Ian, asking him where he was in August 1975. He asks why, and she says because that was when she was conceived. He assumes he is at the estate, and he remembers that was when he made Sarah's sculpture. He says he can't be sure and asks her to confirm with Diana, but he remembers that Diana was in London during that period to settle her divorce. She realizes he is her father, but she doesn't say it. She gives him the flowers, and he takes her to her sculpture. As she leaves, she is stung by bees, and she sees Osvaldo, who offers to help her. She muds to reduce her pain. She accepts, and they also take a walk. During their walk, he tells her that he wrote her a letter, but she might not know because it wasn't signed. He tells her the content of the letter, and she realizes it's her best letter. He takes her to the tree he had talked about in that letter, and they begin to kiss. They spend the night together, and they have sex. The next day, as they walk away together, he tells her he wants to follow her to America, and on his way home, he screams to her that it is his first time too. And the movie ends here. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. So, click any video of 3 of them, and enjoy next. Please don't forget to subscribe our channel, and please like the video, and tell us in the comment how you liked the video. I see you soon.